What's going on? It's your boy Nick 5, and I am here, and I want to make sure I get this right. Okay. In 2010, he won Best Music in Motion Graphic and Poetry Award. Okay. In 2016, also was nominated for Artist of the Year, Independent Composer by VGMO. In 2021, this was just 2021, won an award for, is it a ground soundtrack from the NYX Game Awards?
The Knicks Award, yeah, Best of Ground Soundtrack. Best original soundtrack for a ground, yes.
Scored multiple other games, done over 30 talks as a guest speaker all over. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Chase Bethea. Yeah, how are you doing, sir?
I love the intro, Nick. Thank you so much. I'm elated. I'm humbled. I'm happy. All the things. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Excited. I was ready for this. I worked earlier today. I do the IT thing, all the computer stuff. But I said, after I got these questions lined up, it's gonna be nice. It's gonna be real smooth and laid back. Okay, so I appreciate your time. So, man, Chase, this is a lot. I don't even know, but let's start with, I think I saw something that said you were raised in Chicago, Illinois.
Yes, I was born and raised in Chicago, Illinois for many years until about 20 years ago.
So good, because I was actually born and raised in Chicago, Illinois as well.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah, I know. What a coincidence. So, Chase, tell me, what was that like growing up? What part of Chicago did you grow up in?
So I was born on Fullerton. Well, I was born in St. Joe's Hospital, but I was raised in the beginning on Fullerton, West Fullerton. And then I mostly spent the majority of my childhood on 810 West Gray Street, so near Wrigley Field. And then I was also on the south side of Chicago with my father. Sorry, with preface, it was with my mom and my grandmother and my great-grandmother on Gray Street. I moved with my father like the later 90s of things, and that was on the 120th, so somewhere over there. That's
nice.
outside, so a broad range of the city, not one of these Schaumburg type of things.
Yeah, exactly.
We're not going to
nice
do that
broad
one.
range, and I was same thing in the south side. I think I was on 38th in Michigan. All right, yeah. I was not too far away. Okay, I know what you're talking about. And then, of course, mom and dad got the great job, moved to the suburbs in Olympia Fields at the time. So we were, we moved out, but I still kept in touch, got a lot of family there. So
right.
Raised around. So, oh man, Chase, this music and audio journey. Okay.
Yeah.
I have to say journey because it's so much that you've covered. And it's kind of similar to me as you get here and you start seeing other doors open and you kind of take other doors. Where did this audio musical journey start for you? Where did it all begin?
I will have to say, got to give credit to my mom there, just because it was mostly around a lot. She did a lot of singing and acting, and so I was around the arts very early. And I mean, both of my parents play music, so I guess it's something that was always within me to become of something of some sort. But my mom got me like a little bit of tiny keyboard when I was a child, and then my father bought me an alto saxophone once I lived with him, and then I was doing music lessons with my mom later on, and then I went to college, and then I started classical composition classes, and then before that I was also doing music engineering. It's learning to be an audio engineer, and that was right after high school. And then I went to college for composition and then media composition at uni. So yeah, it's a long musical journey, but I was in advanced band. I was in choir when I had my alto saxophone from 5th to 7th grade. So 5th grade, it was in beginning band, and then I quickly moved up to advanced band and advanced choir around the time. But yeah, music has been a long time for that thing. But I was writing game music, as I've been saying recently, since I was 6 years old. I would say that was technically my first instrument and my first video game composition was writing on the Game Boy camera because there was, if you had one, you know, like there's a little secret level, and there was where you can play like DJ, but the DJ thing, it had like, it had some samples that you could utilize for DJing, but then you could create your own track and then DJ and scratch to that. And so that was doing that when I was about 6 years, 7 years old.
So, Chase, what is something that you think that you hear and see in audio that other people don't? Because you got a passion. I know there's something that you just hear and it clicks, and just most people don't see it. What do you think that is?
That has me thinking.
It's a tough
It's,
question.
yeah, it's not something I've given much thought about, I guess. It's mostly, I've been playing games for a long time, so what I'm very familiar with the history. So because I grew up with it at an early, in its infancy, mostly. I mean, by the time the industry really boomed in that regard, it was, like I said, in the '90s, and that had only been barely a 10-year industry of lifetime of really successful games and people growing up with these things overall and being influenced by them. So me playing a lot of games and people would typically do something over and over. I mean, I was the one playing on sound tests on the Game Boy and just letting it rock. Once I figured it out, and figuring out that the Tomb Raider soundtrack is actually on the Eidos game, on the 1996 Tomb Raider. If by accident, if you put it in your PlayStation and you open the lid, it won't load the game, and then you put it back down, it will load the CD player, and all the entire soundtrack will play. So I think it's just me understanding games really well and continuing to understand games as I go through my huge retro gaming dialogue, which I own over 800 physical copy games of all different systems and platforms, and just having that passion. I would say is mostly. I would say I think that's, to answer your question. It's really, I just have a natural instinct of passion for this. It's always been within me.
I agree. Um, how many games currently would you say, Chase? You had to give a number because I know
Mhm.
you are a man all over. You can just bang, 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 bang. How many games are you currently working
7,
on? Okay.
7 right now. Yep.
How is that managing seven different games and doing, and I'm not sure if it's just specific to music, maybe just samples of other audio, but how is it working on seven projects at the same time? Is that very manageable? Can it be difficult at times? How is that?
For me, it's not a problem because I've had experience of understanding what my limits are, and I did that with what is called game jams. So you team up with a bunch of different people in a role that will take typically make the point of making the game. So the writer, the programmer, the level designer, so on and so forth, animator, artist, etc. And you make this game in a certain amount of time. So with me game jamming quite a lot, and especially in my earlier career in 2011 up to, would even say, last year, it's, I understand what my limits are. I understand my speed, and I also understand game development cycles. As you know, probably Nick, things get delayed. So I take that into consideration because we're not robots doing this. We're humans, and humans, at least human beings, typically have lives, and lives encompass family and things being coming up and other things like that. And so, yes, even if, especially with independent games,
Mhm.
if you're not pushed by a huge investor, or obviously if you're not working on a AAA title, then things are going to slow down. And as we see, even AAA development, things get delayed and slowed down a bit too. So it's just like, again, it comes back to, people have lives. I understand game development is going to have delays, and I take that into consideration along with my speed and my experience with game jams.
Mm. No, well said. You mentioned your mom and instruments. How many instruments would you say right now? If you said, "Hey, I play a total of blank instruments."
About 4.
Okay, that's more than me. I mean, this is 4 more than me. I mean, I don't play anything, so no.
I own
4.
a lot, like you see here, and then I got the mandolin there, and then we can't see it, but they're on the screen here. But I have a whole instrument wall there. A djembe is hiding by the mandolin. I've got instruments on this side too, so they're all around me.
What do you think, Chase, was your toughest task to date? That you accomplished, of course, but your toughest task that you just said, "Man, that was tough, but I made it."
Yeah, I recall working on this. One of my biggest projects to date was a game I scored called Potions Please by Nyx Hydra. And I had to write a dynamic score that I had pitched to them in an audio middleware with using Elias that I had taught myself in 10 minutes. And I was confident to know how to do it, but I had to do it. I had to do 5 different cues in the dynamic style of things traversing and being smoothly, not just one loopable track. I had to do it, I think, in 2 months, and like 2 months meaning approved by the team and all, not just writing it. So every time that I designed it, then I wrote the music, then I implemented the music, and then I presented it to the team. And the overlap that I got so quick, the first time getting it down was the hardest thing to get it to run very well, and since it was going to be a mobile game, and that was quite the task. But I was very, very happy that I was able to accomplish it. I knew that I would. I had no other choice. I really wanted it.
So, man, and I'm gonna save some because I got so much here. I want to get to the good stuff. Let me say, how difficult is it, Chase, to take something that you have in your mind and the entire process of putting it into a video game? Because a lot of people do not know. They think it's just, oh, you play the sound. Hey, it's good. Damn, we're good. But
Yeah.
it is a process. How difficult is that? How is that process?
It's quite difficult, actually. Because I'm writing against myself, and what that means is I'm trying to write better than what I wrote before. I'm trying to do something different that I wrote before, and not even so. I think starting out, I was concerned about what other people were doing, but it really didn't matter when I realized I'm writing for the game and I need to impress the game and the game development team and make sure that it's going to be glue. And at the end of it all, that the player is going to accept it, right? Because that's really who's receiving this entire art form experience, from the programming to the art to the writing and so on. So I'm making sure that I'm the best puzzle piece to write what the game is asking for. And it's not always easy, because, like I said, it's easier to do what you've done, and you, as a musician, I would have to say, and as a composer, we get into our techniques and we get into our signature sounds, and we want to tend to utilize that naturally. But I'm always someone who, I want to keep the listener, and I want to keep the player interested and engaged. And like this comes from my studies of playing games from early childhood, to just not ever have it be monotonous, but just be oral ear candy, I would say. Yeah. And so, yeah, it's just learning new techniques, listening to different inspirations, sometimes not writing at all, taking breaks, whatever, and having it just be as natural as it possibly can be. And that comes if I even have to do revisions on work, and sometimes there's a mindset of like, oh, well, how am I going to do it? But then I realize it's all within me. So when I write it again, it will be better. And when I struggle with, oh, how am I going to write this better? I realize that I just need to slow down a little bit more and then take maybe a little bit longer on the piece that I'm writing for the game. It usually comes out better.
What do you feel is your best piece of work? If you just laid it all out there and you said one that I knew the moment they gave it to me, I was going to knock it out the park. What would you say that?
Oh, I it's really, I'm about almost 12 soundtracks in, Nick, and from all the games that I've scored so far that have been released. And if I had to think back, it's really hard to compare. I'm really struggling with this
12
one right
is a
now.
lot. 12 is a
Yeah,
lot.
it's a lot. It's, I guess if I'll have to go through it by per project. So
Yeah, let's do it with that. Give us a couple, one or two, couple of them.
one or two. I really want to take my time with this one too, because I'm thinking, I like that question so much because there's a memory and a story here that I haven't actually given it much thought of, and I really want to tap into that properly.
12 different soundtracks. And one thing with 12 different soundtracks is it's not only different pieces at work, it's different time periods. You're in different mind states, different
Yes,
things are occurring.
yes,
So I can relate to having a project that you may have done at a time where, you know, you may have cared, the most ever, and it didn't come out like you wanted to, but you may have a project where you were at a point where, hey, I let loose, I didn't care, and it wind up being everything you never thought of. It is
yeah.
so much in 12 soundtracks. But out of your 12, okay, what would be some of your top ones?
I'd have to say Cubic Climber.
Okay.
I'm going to go through, I'm going to say Super Happy Fun Block. I'm going to say Aground. And I'm going to say one more that is that's there. It's like I'm trying to think back, like which ones
Hey,
are
those
those again?
three good plugs right there, because I'm definitely going to say, hey, good soundtrack, recommended by the man himself. Can't really go wrong with that.
Yeah, I think
And believe me, I understand.
I'm going to say Electron Flux, my very first game.
Mm.
I think that, and it's ironic because it's actually the 10-year anniversary of that game this year, and I think in October. And
Wow.
so yeah, I'm working on something special for that. But I recall feeling very good about getting that project when I was bidding for it, and I got it. So I think that was actually the answer. Well, to answer your question, it was that one. And again, that's you don't hear that very often. Those people or think, oh, well, yeah, it was my first one and I did this. But I remember I sent in something I already had written, and then I wrote another track just to kind of give the extra push to make sure that I did land the gig, and I did.
No, I totally relate to that. Myself, back in my young days, oh, I'm gonna be a rapper, come out with a couple albums. But the first album, it is something about the passion, the hunger, nobody's making you do it, the self-dedication. You're making yourself go there. And as you get older, you kind of, you fall into the rhythm, it becomes pattern. But
Right.
first one, you're right. It's just something about the first one that's different. So
Yeah.
I'm with you on that. Now, I got a good question here, because this is one that amazed me. I don't see too many black males doing what you do. Chase, why is that? And just before you answer, I feel the same thing. I feel like in game media, people speaking with developers, I don't see enough, blacks all together. And we play a lot of video games, we're out there in the market, in different aspects, but you just don't see it often. Why do you think that is?
I don't think it's like you were talking about earlier. It's more the platforms aren't showcasing the talent and the work for it to be proceeded beyond the color. And if that, they are out there, and I know many of them. I know brilliant artists in the industry that work at Xbox. I know brilliant composers even that I've looked up to those that I mean I've read about in books from the time. I know there was in that time I remember there was only two, and now there's definitely more than 100 for sure. I can bet on that. As far as composers, artists, even executives in certain positions. But again, I'm not. It just depends on. I would have to say possibly the personality of and the platform. So there's not a lot of opportunity to be on things such as this, or they may not want to be either. So they prefer to kind of be behind the scenes as well, and that's fine. But there's definitely more than you think.
No, that's very well said. And I think, we don't typically think like that. When you don't see it, it's kind of like, ignorance is bliss. You
Right,
don't
right,
know. And then the more you start looking into it, like you're right, if you think of two then and over 100 now, that is a massive jump. So they are there. But
right.
you're right, platforms and as I'm kind of with you. I get into the point the more we're growing, we're getting past it, we're fighting every day, and I got to the point where I have a black family, but a lot of my friends are white. I'm just being honest. They are. I've been in the suburbs a lot of my life, but I also have black friends. So I've never really had a lot of the racism issues myself, but I do remember the instances I did. So
Mm,
that's why I asked there about you specifically, and in that position, I think we will see more. And like you're right, platforms like this, when people see us talking, they go, "Hey, man, it is cool." You know what I mean to do it. You're not a geek, dweeb, or weirdo, or other stuff. It's actually cool to do. So I thank you for being you, and continue doing what you do now. I have so many, but I know we're gonna run out of time. I have you for a certain amount of time here, okay? A young mind is watching right now, and they
mhm.
say, "I want to compose, you know, and score tons of different video games. How do I go about scoring video games if I want it to be the next Chase? What would be something that Chase would say that maybe go back and change to get to this point a little quicker? What would be something you recommend to someone, anybody out there younger coming up who's saying, "Hey, I want to get into this"?
If you're doing if you're doing it because you love it, you pursue it by all means necessary. And if you pay attention to what your peers would tell you and your friends about the music that you write, that will lead you down the path quicker. So I am only going to use for my own example. I didn't pair the two of game music being a career until 2011, but I was told for several years that my music should sound like it should be in a video game since 2001. So if I had put it together that it was a career in 2001 when I was writing game music in 96, 5, 95, 96, and even beyond, I would have been in the industry a lot sooner, making a way bigger splash. But everything happens when it's supposed to happen. Nothing happens before it's time, as my mom would say.
I agree, and it's very ironic you mentioned that because myself grew up loving computers. It was all about, hey, I'm going to do something. I'm going to design a game. And as I got older, the closer I got to programming a game, the more I understood I didn't really want to do that. But, I
Mm,
started going to computer networking, other things. But one thing I heard, Chase, all the time throughout my life was you have the voice of a disc jockey. You have the voice of a radio guy. And I heard it all my life. And for the longest, never cared. It was just,
right.
okay, but I work a call center job. I use my voice that way, or I was using my voice, but in different ways. And then lo and behold, start a YouTube channel and start a podcast. And what do you know? Growing. So totally hit the nail on the head with that. You
We
just
gotta listen better. So listen better, young folks. Listen better.
no, well said. What does the future hold for you, Chase? Where do you see or want to be, you know, 5 years from now?
I hope to be one of the greatest video game composers of our time, whenever that's supposed to happen, whether it's tomorrow or in the near future. But my goal is to keep the inspiration going for everyone, no matter what, where you come from, where you are in the world, and to write some of the best video game music you'll ever hear in your life. So whatever it takes to kind of achieve that, it's for me, it's called going beyond the brand and being seen in different avenues beyond game audio to show what video game a composer like me lifestyle is like, or day to day or things like that too. And hopefully, as I'm writing a book, that will kind of shed more light on the past experiences and build bigger opportunities into hopefully, being in different style magazines or endorsed by different things besides out of audio, like cologne or something. I don't know, like video game composer Chase Bethea wears cologne or something, But I'm forward thinking to show whatever it takes in that respect for it's not just seen in that it can only be for a specific type of people. It can be for folks like us.
Nice. Okay, so let's get to something, a little more spicy there. What is the most strangest thing you did to create sound or a musical piece? I have to know because I've seen a couple things you've done, and I can only imagine how far you've gone to get the perfect sound. So, what is the most strangest thing where you thought, you know what? You probably heard it during the day or, something going on where you just said, I'm going to try this. And you got the sound.
Yeah, it's kind of gonna be kind of weird, but I made a shaker out of toenails.
I've heard weird stuff all the time about it. That's why I knew to ask this question. I knew it.
For a
So,
horror score. I figured if it's gonna be in a horror sense, of just make like a little egg shaker. So they're my own toenails. Just don't want to creep people out there. But yeah, that's it.
man, that is amazing. So, when you did the sound, did you think it was going to come out good, or was it just something where you just like, hey, I'm going to give it a shot and see how it sounds, or was it something that you thought and you said, I know this is the sound,
and
toenails?
and yeah, because my ears are familiar with how things are supposed to sound or what they're relative to, I knew it was gonna work. And I thought that it would just be heck weird if I had used toenails. Nobody's That grossed some people out, but I mean, like I said, it's mine. I put them in a little Easter egg shaker thing, and I made a little shaker out of it. For those of you who don't know, if you want to make your own out of not toenails, you use rice. You can in that respect. But or if you had ever bought one from the instrument store, they might have like a different sentiment. It might be type of like a heavier rock sand or a quickcrete or some sort. But yeah, I mean, for a horror score, why not? Like I think that's super cool and
Uh,
unique.
it's beyond unique. It is
Eccentric.
especially okay. Like I mean, you're right. You said certain sounds, you start going into patterns and things like that. But you mentioned also being forward thinking, which is why you've probably have been seeing the success you've been seeing, just kind of stay on top of it. You've been around a long time. So you've been around when there was, the what was it, the ICQ or IRC chat? There we go. It was IRC
Yeah.
forums and stuff. That stuff is ancient. Okay, now we're
Yeah.
on to other stuff, but you've been around there. So, Chase, last question. Where could someone go right now to listen to your work? And I know it's all over. Okay. It's almost like I put it in, I found it in every Google page and every search. Okay. But I would like for you to plug yourself.
For sure. If you put in Chase Bethea, that's ChaseBethea, it should come right up. I'm on Spotify, Apple Music, Google Play, Tidal. The list goes on. Deezer, wherever streaming, YouTube, the streaming platforms, you think of it, I'm most likely there, including the Instagrams and the TikToks. So if you pull up my name and you want to play some of your music to some of your videos, you can pull that up there too. So yeah, it's that. And then if you just put in my name in Google, it'll show up the rest of the musical platforms, SoundCloud, and my website, and so on and so forth.
Nice. Ladies and gentlemen, my very special guest, Chase. We will be doing this again, Chase. I would hope. I love bringing everyone back and kind of recapping where things have gone. Later. So, Chase, it was a pleasure have you on the platform, and you have a wonderful day, sir.
Thank you, Nick. And pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me. It's an awesome experience. Thank you.